Have you ever met someone and felt an instant spark, like they understood something about you that even you hadn't fully put into words? Maybe it happened in a single glance, a few words exchanged, or a quiet moment that somehow felt larger than life, and even though the moment was brief, it stayed with you. It echoed inside you like a familiar song you hadn't heard in years. A feeling like destiny brushing against your shoulder. Or maybe someone looked at you that way, as if they recognized something in you they didn't even know they were missing. Like you weren't just another face in the crowd, but the answer to something they'd carried deep inside, some longing, some ache they couldn't quite name. It might have felt surreal, even unnerving, but it wasn't random. It wasn't just chemistry or luck or some mystical fluke. And it definitely wasn't just about how attractive you are or how charming your words might be. There's something deeper going on, something that speaks to the parts of us we often ignore. Carl Jung, one of the most insightful minds in psychology, believed that love at first sight, magnetic attraction, and even heartbreak are rarely about the other person. Instead, they're often about us, about what we carry within. He suggested that we don't just fall in love with someone, we fall in love with what they awaken in us. And those awakenings are not surface level. They're deeply emotional, rooted in the unconscious, where much of our true self still waits to be seen. Jung believed there are two major reasons someone might fall in love with you, and neither of them has anything to do with your resume, your reputation, or your looks. They live below the surface, inside the quiet layers of the mind. They're about reflection and resonance, the way someone can hold up a mirror and show us the parts of ourselves we've forgotten, avoided, or never even met. That's why certain people feel like fate, why some connections seem to hit a nerve you didn't know was exposed. So stay with me, because what we're diving into next might just help you understand why you love the way you do, and how to tell the difference between real love and a beautiful illusion. Let's take a deeper look at the first reason someone might fall in love with you, and it's probably not what you think. According to Carl Jung, one of the reasons we feel so drawn to another person is because they reflect something we don't yet see in ourselves, something we may have forgotten, rejected, or never fully developed. It's not just about opposites attracting, it's about recognition. A deep, unconscious resonance with something we're missing inside. Think about a man who spent his life being careful. Maybe he grew up in a home where emotions were suppressed. Maybe he's built his world on logic, order, and responsibility. He might be respected, successful, and steady, but part of him feels locked away. Then one day, he meets a woman who is spontaneous, emotionally alive, and unafraid to speak her truth. She laughs freely, cries without apology, and lives from her heart. Suddenly he feels something stir, a fascination, a pull he can't quite explain. He might say, there's just something about her. But what he's really feeling is something within himself being stirred awake. She represents a part of him that's been buried, a piece of his emotional world that he never gave himself permission to explore. And this doesn't just happen. One way, someone might fall in love with you for the same reason. Maybe you bring a sense of peace they've never known. Maybe your confidence feels like a lighthouse in their storm. Maybe your quiet strength or emotional stability makes them feel safe in ways they've never felt before. To them, you are more than a person. You are a symbol, a living reminder of what they need to become or what they've lost along the way. This is what Jung called projection. It means we don't always fall in love with a person for who they really are. We fall for what they represent to us. We look at them and see the qualities we wish we had, the emotions we've pushed down, or the potential we've left unexplored. And we respond to those reflections as if they were love. But here's where things get tricky. If someone doesn't realize they're projecting, they may confuse emotional need for genuine connection. They might cling to you, not out of love, but out of longing for that missing part of themselves. You become a kind of emotional life raft, but one that can't carry both of you forever. And what happens when you show them your real self, your imperfections, your own needs, your boundaries? That image they built around you starts to fall apart. You no longer match the fantasy. The person who once adored you might begin to pull away, confused and disappointed, not because you did something wrong, but because the illusion has broken. This is the danger of love built on projection. It's beautiful, it's powerful, but it's also fragile, because it's not based on knowing each other. It's based on seeing parts of ourselves reflected in someone else. So the next time someone seems magnetically drawn to you, or when you feel that intense pull toward someone else, pause. Ask yourself, is this love or is this a mirror? Because true connection begins when we stop looking for someone to complete us and start becoming whole on our own. Jung didn't stop at projection. He went deeper into the realm of inner images that we carry within us, often without even knowing they're there. He believed that every man holds within his unconscious mind an image of the feminine. He called this the anima. And every woman carries her version of the masculine, the animus. These are not fantasies or fleeting crushes. They are deep emotional blueprints, shaped over time by early experiences, culture, family dynamics, and even the media we consume without questioning. They are collections of feelings, impressions, and symbols that form our picture of what the ideal man or ideal woman looks and feels like to us. You could think of these inner figures like emotional maps. They influence who we're drawn to, who we feel safe with, who we trust instantly without explanation. And sometimes we meet someone in real life who fits that map so well, it feels uncanny. You might feel like you've known them forever, even if you just met. The way they move, the tone of their voice, the way they carry themselves, all of it seems to resonate with something deep inside you. This is not coincidence. This is the anima or animus being activated, and the pull can be overwhelming. You might find yourself thinking, where have you been all my life? Or how is it possible that you just get me? The chemistry feels otherworldly. The connection seems inevitable, but here's the thing. It might not be about who they really are at all. It might be about how perfectly they line up with the unconscious image you've been carrying inside you for years, maybe even decades. This is the second powerful reason someone might fall in love with you, because you awaken their inner image. To them, you're not just a person. You're the embodiment of a dream they didn't even realize they were holding on to. You feel familiar, comforting, and deeply symbolic. That's why the love can feel so intense, but that's also why it can be so delicate, because eventually, no matter how strong the initial attraction is, reality enters the room. You start showing your full self. You express your needs. You draw boundaries. You have flaws. You're human. And suddenly, the perfect alignment starts to slip. You no longer match the ideal in their head. The dream cracks, and when that happens, it can feel like heartbreak. But really, it's a moment of truth, because the dream breaking isn't the end. In many ways, it's the beginning. When the fantasy fades, something else has the chance to grow, something more grounded, more honest, and more lasting. This is the doorway to real love. Love that sees the whole person, not just the image. Love that embraces imperfection and builds something meaningful out of authenticity, not illusion. So if someone falls for you fast, deeply, without reason, pause. It might be their inner world seeing something in you, and that's okay. It's part of how we learn, grow, and connect. But awareness is key, because when both people recognize what's really going on, they can choose to build something real, not just live inside a beautiful dream. Once you understand that someone might fall in love with you, not simply for who you are, but for a piece of themselves they see in you, everything starts to shift. You stop personalizing the highs and lows of attraction. You stop trying to keep up with someone else's fantasy version of you. You stop wondering what you did right or wrong when the energy suddenly changes, and instead you begin to ask better questions. Questions that open doors to deeper self-understanding. What part of me were they really drawn to? Was it my calmness, my warmth, my ability to stay steady in the storm? What part of themselves were they hoping to reconnect with through me? And just as importantly, what part of them did I fall in love with? Was it their laughter, their sense of adventure, or the way they made me feel more alive, more seen? Because here's the honest truth. This isn't a one-way street. Projection works both ways. You've done it too, we all have. At some point, you've probably fallen for someone not because of who they actually were, but because of how they made you feel about yourself. You loved the version of you that came alive in their presence. Maybe they made you feel young again. Maybe they reminded you of something you thought you had lost. Maybe they made you feel like anything was possible. It's human. It's natural. But the beauty of becoming aware of it is that we get to stop running in circles. We begin to see the truth of our own patterns. And from that place, we can grow. The more awareness you bring to these emotional dynamics, the more grounded your relationships become. You stop chasing people to fill the empty places inside you. You start filling those places yourself, with care, with growth, with love that doesn't depend on someone else giving it to you. You become whole. And from that wholeness, you begin to love differently. You no longer fall for someone because you think they complete you. You love them because they walk beside you, not ahead of you, not behind you, but next to you. Not as your other half, but as a fellow soul on the journey. And that kind of love, it doesn't shake when life gets hard. It doesn't vanish when you reveal your flaws. It doesn't crumble when you stop being a dream and start being real. It holds steady, it listens, it grows. Because it's not built on illusion. It's built on truth. And truth, even when it's not perfect, is always stronger than fantasy. So now we come back to the question, why do people fall in love with you? Maybe it's not just about your personality or the way you carry yourself. Maybe it has less to do with what you do, and more to do with what you awaken in them. Maybe, just maybe, they see something in you that reflects a forgotten part of themselves. Something tender, something powerful, something they're not even aware they're searching for. That's not something you have to perform or maintain. You don't need to live up to anyone's fantasy or be someone's perfect version of a partner. That's not love, that's pressure, and you weren't made to carry that. You were made to be real, to be seen, to be known in your wholeness. And when you allow yourself to be fully you, without the mask, without the role, without the expectation, to be someone else's emotional answer, that's when real love shows up. That's when the kind of love that sees you, understands you, and stays with you has space to grow. So if this message hit home for you, I want to hear from you. What part of this resonated the most? What part of your story did this bring to light? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read everyone. And if you made it this far, type the word mirror down in the comments, so I know you stayed with me to the very end. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. We have more conversations coming about love, relationships, aging, and emotional growth. You're not broken. You're learning. You're becoming whole. And that wholeness, that inner completeness, is where the deepest kind of love begins.